tonight. It's been a beautiful evening so far, and the next hour or so is going to be even better than what we've been experiencing so far. I do want to say that we pivot well. We were supposed to be outside, but due to some unforeseen weather, we decided to move inside, and I'm grateful that we're able to move inside into this beautiful space, the Lng Levine Theater. This is a special place for many of us. So it's named after Lng Levine, who has been a supporter of our work for a long time and was a drive to make this theater happen. Unfortunately, he passed away this past spring and was unable to experience the beauty of this space. And so I just want to take a moment to think about him. And then I want to recognize Marty Shukert, who's hiding over in the back. If you all turn around and look at the mural behind us, Marty designed that mural, Hine Matuv U'Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, which is what we're doing today safely, COVID-wise, wearing masks, because it's always good to be together and to sit comfortably with each other. So Marty, thank you for that. And if you don't know it, Rachel, our speaker, is his daughter and Aviva's daughter. So a little plug for both of them. So yesterday we concluded our month-long holidays of Simchas Torah. And the main thing with Simchas Torah is you finish reading the Torah and then you start over again. It's kind of like the annual campaign. I mean, we never really seem to finish it, and then we start another one. Thank you for laughing. We come together to really believe in doing the work for our community, and we do that. And tonight is special. Again, we've been doing this for 120 years, but it's nice to have the group here tonight in this space where many of us have had many, many fond memories. But we raise money not just for us locally, but for Jews around the world as well. Because this is a momentous occasion, I would just like to offer, one of the blessings that we have in our repertoire of blessings. We just, had Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchas Torah, but we are in a new season. We are in the impact season of our campaign. So I'm going to do the Shechianu, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lehazman hazeh. Thank you. Blessed are you, Eternal One, who has given us life, sustained us, and allowed us to arrive at this moment. For me, this moment is incredible because we have been through 18 months of challenges with COVID, and I'm grateful that many of you came out tonight. Also, many of you are out there on Zoom to experience why the Federation is important to our community. I have the privilege tonight of doing several things, but my first privilege is to really invite my friend David Galinsky up to be our host and MC for the evening. David pulled me back to Omaha 16 years ago, along with Carol Block and a few others, to take over the ADL work that Bob Wilson went to New York with. And then I kind of continued on with the Federation. And it's befitting that David and I are doing this together because this will be my last official annual campaign as CEO of the Jewish Federation of Omaha. So David, come on up and have some fun.
We're ready. Good evening. Everybody's asking me what the G stands for. Tonight it stands for give. It's what we're here to do. Alan, thanks for that lovely introduction. Alan and I go back 16 years. Great decision to bring Alan back to Omaha to help lead the ADL at the time, and it's been such a pleasure to work with Alan all these years, both at the ADL and at the Jewish Federation of Omaha. We're part of a mutual admiration society. We just love each other. It's just great to be together in a live setting. I'm sorry to those of you who are online. I'm glad you're there. I think there's 60 or 70 or 80 of you out there online. It's great that you're there, but it's really a pleasure to be here in person. And I just might invoke the wise words of Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. Now's the time it's good to live again. Now is the time it's good to give again. If you haven't looked up that song in a while, I recommend you listen to it. Dave's always good to listen to. came out with a Bee Gees cover album last. It's good. You gotta check it out. I do want to take a moment to thank the Federation staff that made tonight really an unbelievable success and pivoted at the last minute from outdoors to indoors, and the amount of work the staff has put in is unbelievable. I just want to say thank you. Please, would you stand, the Federation staff. And I also want to recognize there's staff from all of our agencies here tonight from the Jewish Federation of Omaha. There's too many to name, so I'm not going to go through who everybody is, but any staff, please just wave. I think we should be grateful for all these folks that work so hard all the time. As Alan so eloquently said, I'm David Galinsky. I am honored to be the co-chair of the Men's Major Gifts Division this year, along with John Glazer, my co-chair, my Robin to my Batman. And unfortunately, he's out of town tonight, or he'd be recognized as well, but I'm happy to help kick things off for everybody. I'm really standing here because community is important to me, and we have one of the most special Jewish communities in the country, I believe. I look around the room and I see generations of relationships. People whose grandparents were friends with my grandparents, and people whose parents are friends with my parents. And my parents are here somewhere. Where are you? Oh, there they are. Hi. There, Indiana. It's kind of amazing, and that's kind of what keeps me going and why I'm standing up here. I just love this community because we are all part of the same fabric that we've all stood upon the shoulders of giants over the years. As a matter of fact, Alan told me a story today, and I'm trying not to steal any of your thunder, but he told me there's a record of my great-great-grandfather, Saul Bergman, giving to the campaign 100 years ago, 1921. There's record of Saul Bergman giving to the campaign 100 years ago, something I wasn't aware of. I'm sure my dad wasn't aware of either. It's kind of neat. But I'm not surprised at all. The Galinskys and the Bergmans were part of creating synagogues in Council Bluffs and Omaha, and were part of the fabric of this community. And I think it's just another story that there's so many of them like that out here with you guys tonight. So we're all here. Let me introduce some of the reasons I love this community. I want to start by introducing our campaign chairs, Iris and Marty Ricks, and Jess and Shane Cohn. Where are Jess and Shane? Stand up. And also I want to congratulate and recognize tonight's event chairs, Jamie and Brian Nog, and Carrie and Brandon Tauber. Amazing event tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I just want to say I'm really looking forward to hearing Rachel speak tonight. I was telling Marty that. I was like, where is Rachel? I want to meet Rachel. I'm really excited to what she's going to bring to the next season of The Handmaid's Tale. I'm hoping for some serious Glow influence. I don't know if you guys watch that show, but I'm hoping that we get some wrestling techniques for Offred to kind of bring into the show. And you never know what kind of self-actualization might happen with the influence of the whole Babysitters Club thing. So I think we're in for something that's a real treat if you're into The Handmaid's Tale. My next job is to introduce the president of the Jewish Federation of Omaha board, Mike Siegel, my friend and my neighbor, my next door neighbor, literally. He's a total baller, as in pickleball. And something that most of you know, but many don't, is he's the godfather to my dog, Cub. So he's very close with our dog, and he spends a lot of time with our Pomeranian, and I'm very grateful for you to be there for our dog. But most importantly, he is an unbelievable, dedicated volunteer who's driving real change in this organization right now. And I want him to come up and tell you a little bit about what's going on at the Federation. Come on, Mike.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see everyone and to just be together in this great theater. I just want to say I had gotten no instruction. Before, when I have spoken, everyone told me not to touch the microphone. I had not been given that instruction, so that is a good improvement. So anyway, the strategic plan is starting to be implemented, and the JFO staff have already had successes with a few events. They've done a military family event, was held recently to reconnect with our Jewish military families. The Community Engagement Department has taken PJ Library to the next phase as they implemented PJ Elementary. They have even added a series of events called PJ Splash Pad Meetups, where our PJ families meet at different splash pads throughout Omaha. Lastly, our federation enrolled 4 of our young Jewish women to participate in the Emerge program, which gives these women the tools to become leaders in our community. The JCC has added programming that we have never seen before on this campus. They planned a Jazz at the J, a book club, and are bringing a local Shakespeare play production to perform in this theater. All of this program is a direct result of the strategic plan. There's more work to be done, but we are heading in the right direction. More innovative programming, funding, lay and staff leadership training, and software upgrades will be coming in the next year. Our plan is all about reconnecting and re-engaging our community. None of these actions would be possible unless we had a robust campaign. When we showed our campaign trend to our strategic plan consultant, he could not believe the year-to-year growth that we were having. He said other communities he has worked with did not have the same trajectory as we did, and that is why I love this community. This community always supports Jewish causes. Jewish Omaha has one of the kindest hearts. Being from New York, if you haven't already noticed from my accent, I have seen a variety of communities, and none of them can rival Omaha. We need to keep the momentum going. We are making excellent progress towards our vision and goals. That is why your campaign pledge is essential to the success of this campus. A generous donor has challenged us with a $60,000 to dollar matching fund for all new or increased pledges. We had a similar matching fund a couple of years ago, and it was a huge success. Let's not waste this awesome opportunity and take advantage of doubling the impact of your new or increased pledge. I am usually not an optimistic person. It's just not part of the Siegel genes. But I am very optimistic about our community's future. We have a great staff, great lay leaders, and great community support. We are all lucky to be part of Jewish Omaha. I want to thank everyone here for coming, and from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate all the support, whether it's financially or with your time, or both. I love the support that comes from this community. And now I would like to direct your attention to the screen where a video will play about our federation and its impact on our community.
We engage people through our Omaha Jewish Film Festival Committee, the members of which who have been volunteering remotely from home for years, watching trailers and full-length films to be shared with the community each November. We've organized the Omaha Beit Midrash, a weekly house of study, together with clergy of all backgrounds, to learn using traditional texts to address contemporary issues. So, the annual campaign dollars are what makes it possible for us to do all these programs without having to have high class fees or require registration for families for programming.
One of the reasons that I really love the press so much and why it is such a privilege to work at this agency is that what we do, most importantly, I think, is tell the story of this community, and it is a phenomenal story. The reason that the Jewish press here in Omaha still is here is because of the Federation. It is because of the annual campaign. It is because of the subvention that is given from the annual campaign to the Jewish press. But beyond that, it is because so many people in our community care.
PJ Library and PJ Our Way engage families with young children through programming with the goal of better connecting families with Jewish life as well as each other.
So I have been working with Jenny Gates Beckman to help create PJ Elementary, which is geared towards kindergarten age through 5th grade, the elementary years. PJ Library Elementary is that bridge to connect families in the Omaha Jewish community.
Well, being the education coordinator means I get to meet with a lot of students and a lot of teachers and have that contact in the community. And what I'm really excited about this year is a new program we piloted right before the COVID shutdown in March of 2020. And we went out to the Sand Hills and worked with students from Burwell and Arcadia and O'Neill and Ansley in this peer training program that came out of the Anne Frank House in the Netherlands. And I was able to see 16 students who didn't know each other previously completely transform in 2 days. And it was magic.
What we want to do is build equitable school environments for all students to feel safe and welcome, to be respected, and to understand their own identities are unique and supported within their school buildings. So we do that through our anti-bias trainings. We do that through our projects that the schools reach campus-wide. We do that through community outreach, building networks to support those schools. And certainly relying on funds from donors assists us in our outreach in reaching thousands of students every year, reaching hundreds of educators every year, and certainly the impact of our work, we know that with each educator we reach, we're reaching about 60 students through that each individual touch. So I think that the JFO is, instrumental in facilitating that work that we do within the community.
The first thing we wanted to highlight was the COVID Relief Fund. We served 176 people last year, and in addition to that, 44 campus employees who were impacted in one way or another by COVID, either because they could not work a shift and had to be quarantined and then couldn't pay their rent, utilities, and needed some groceries. And then another area that's always a highlight of Jewish family service in the community is Project Dreidel. And last year we served 70 unique children in 24 separate families and provided gifts for the holiday season. Most people don't know this, 52% of our funds for the next fiscal year are coming from the general campaign funds to Jewish family service. So without you, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
This year has been challenging for everyone everywhere. I think most especially for our seniors. We have had to postpone, put on hold a lot of the programming that we normally offered to our elders. And so have tried to compensate by just upping our time and attention and services offered to make sure that folks were doing okay. We have greatly increased our number of Meals on Wheels recipients. So our driver, when he brings meals, he is way more than just delivering a meal. He checks in, he lets us know if somebody seems like they might need some help or isn't feeling as well as they normally do, and then we are able to contact family members. It's really a sense of community, and I've heard time and time again from out-of-town family members as well as the elders themselves that it really has made them feel very connected and eased some of the anxiety that everyone has been going through, knowing that someone was going to be around.
I think the J provides the opportunity to basically recharge your whole person, your mind, body, and spirit. And there's something for everyone there. And there's something that is to be said for working out, and there's something to be said for socializing, and there's something to be said for, I guess, some of the healing powers of art and theater and some of the really unique things that the J has to offer. So
I've been a kind of member since I started, with it's been awesome. I've been working since I started working, but now I do. I love yoga, it's awesome. Okay, yoga's awesome because we do yoga's like Stephanie a teacher for years. Yoga's awesome because I know how to do downward dog.
Amazing to see Israel. We often read about it and we see stories on the news, and you have this idea about what Israel is, and what it means, and what it feels, and what it feels like, and what it tastes like. And then being there and meeting Israelis, meeting other Jewish women from around the world, celebrating Shabbat in Jerusalem, really opened my eyes to what Judaism can and did feel like to me. I want to thank the Jewish Federation of Omaha for investing in me through the Momentum trip. Their contribution to my experience greatly shaped how I participate in the Jewish community now.
I would now like to bring Alan back to the stage to introduce our guest speaker for tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Just another round of applause for that video. That's an in-house video by our staff. I also want to recognize our online host this evening. If you're watching via Zoom, our online host is Kayla Sakir. You saw her in the video as well. It's a fun honor and privilege to have Rachel be our main event tonight. That's a wrestling term, David. You didn't use main event, but thank you for referencing the wrestling pieces. This is her second time in Omaha to speak in the past decade. We brought her in when we honored Steve Rikus for our day of learning and laughter, and I hope we're in for some laughter tonight. Amy and I have been a follower of Rachel's work on TV for the past several years, but I really started to know about Rachel as she matured as a writer when she would contribute to the online journal called Tablet. Raise your hand if you've heard of Tablet magazine. Okay, if you haven't, you should go home, go to Tablet and Google or search Rachel Shukert in there. She's got some great pieces that'll lighten your spirit if you need it. But I think that it's a great tribute to her as a writer. Rachel, I have to tell you, your mom is a great source of information. Okay, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Aviva loves her children. Not just Rachel, but also Ariel. And every Shabbat, pre-COVID, many of us would go to Bethel for Shabbat, and I would always ask Aviva, what are Rachel and Ariel up to these days? And it wasn't hard getting information out of Aviva about Rachel. Sorry if I'm embarrassing you, Aviva. Let's just say that I found out that she moved to LA. I found out that she had a baby, Theo. I learned that she worked on Supergirl. Anybody see Supergirl? Okay, go home and Google that one. I learned that she was working on a new show called Glow. David mentioned Glow. If you don't know what Glow stands for, Glorious Ladies of Wrestling. There's a character in there named Ruth from Omaha. So when I first started watching Glow, I thought that Rachel had put that character in there and from Omaha. I later learned that it was done before Rachel was on the show. She might talk about that. But since COVID has come on, I haven't been able to question Aviva about what Rachel is up to, so I had to do a little sleuthing. Not difficult doing that because there's a lot of stuff online about Rachel, but there's a great interview that she did that came out in Omaha Magazine back in April. So if you want to learn more about some of the work she's been doing since COVID started, it's in there. She's written many books, Have You No Shame, Everything Is Going to Be Great, Love Me, Starstruck. She's worked on TV shows such as Red Band Society, Supergirl, Glow, Babysitter's Club, and I learned from David tonight, Handmaid's Tale. I didn't know that one. But Rachel is just a phenomenal person, and I'm thrilled that she's going to be with us tonight. I do want to share one quick thing. David kind of took a little bit of my talk with him, that I have an interest in the history of Omaha philanthropy. And we have a great resource called the Jewish Press. And every year from about 1919, the Jewish Press started in 1920, the Jewish Welfare Fund, later the Jewish Federation of Omaha, listed everybody who made a donation to the Jewish community. And Rachel's great-grandfather, Reverend Jake Shukert, was listed in there. So were my two grandfathers, so was David's great-grandfather. And I bet, looking out around this room tonight, that probably 75% of you have a relative that made a contribution in the early 1920s. And if you want to check on that, you just call me and we will look into that. But really what I want to talk about is the legacy part, having Rachel here being the great-granddaughter of somebody who believed in our community. Rachel's back in our community, and I hope that one day that her grandchildren will go through the archives of the Jewish Press and realize that she was our main speaker for the annual campaign event. And with that, I'd like to welcome Rachel up and give us a little insight. So.
Hi. Thank you so much, Alan, for that. I'm genuinely so honored to be here and kind of a little amazed that this is happening. It's not every day that you get to give a speech in literally the exact spot that your career in show business began. Mine began, honestly, literally right here on this edge of the stage at the Dreidel Jewish Academy Hanukkah pageant. I'm sort of hesitant to say the year, but I feel like this is the one audience where I really have no prayer of lying about my age. So I think it was 1988. Perhaps you were lucky enough to be at one of these performances over the years. I'm sure these days, just given the state of this building and the community, that they have a full set and a professional director and a cast of thousands. But back in my day, when we were just a scrappy little upstart school in an ancient building filled with asbestos, and there were only about 30 kids in the student body, we would all cluster in the middle of the stage like a choir for the duration of the performance. Each child was assigned a line and would have to leave the group to come to an upstage microphone to say the line. And this was, in many ways, a sort of performance art endurance experiment as pioneered by the avant-garde director Robert Wilson, as the audience and performers alike would have to sit in silence for the amount of time it takes a small child to walk several feet in a straight line and get through a single memorized sentence. It was about half an hour each person, if memory serves. And the performers, visible to the audience the entire time, would stand absolutely still without breaking or fidgeting or laughing or crying or wetting their pants for the approximately 13-hour running time. My line was the last to be delivered. I was supposed to say it at the microphone, and then all of the children would sing a farewell song in unison, holding, well, I remember us holding lit candles, but I know that can't be right. They could not have given us lit candles even in the 80s. And then walk off 2 by 2. And it would have been beautiful, like a sort of Hanukkah-themed version of that section of the Nutcracker with the little angels that come down the stage and over to the side, except no provision had been made for me to leave the stage after I had said my line. So as soon as everybody filed off to find their parents in the audience and go to the bathroom and get water and get a cookie and get everything that they needed, I was left on stage and not knowing what I was supposed to do, and figuring that leaving a single ghostly mic on the stage alone as the disembodied phantom voices of singing children was probably not the note of warm family fun we were hoping to strike after the show, I just stood there and kept singing as everybody else stopped. Afterwards, my family seemed awestruck, and I couldn't figure out why. And later, I would learn it was because I had somehow obliviously sung an entire song as a solo, and everyone seemed to think it was planned. My parents were beaming, incredulous that I'd managed to keep such a thing a surprise, although I was as surprised as anyone. People kept coming up to me to tell me they didn't know I could sing, and honestly, I didn't either. I had never thought of myself as being particularly good at anything. I mean, I was an early reader, but it's a lot less impressive to read at a 4th grade level once you're actually in the 4th grade. And, but what I do remember most about that night was how much I loved the praise. I mean, if this was what a life in show business was all about, I was all in. So I doubled down. Voice lessons, dance lessons, right here at the JCC in the old studio that I can still see and smell and remember everything about, right next to the interior entrance to the Rose Blumkin home, where I would often pop over to visit my great-grandmother after class. Poring over the audition notices in the World Herald in order to gain stage experience while cultivating especially the #1 skill needed for a successful career in the arts, and almost superhuman tolerance of personal rejection. Now, there's a thing that people always say in TV writers' rooms when a pitch or a story idea comes around again, and it's often inspired in the moment of the seeds of something that happened several episodes or even several seasons ago, when a sort of story or an idea just clicks into place in the heat of the moment, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, it's almost like we planned it." Because that is what this period of my life has always seemed like to me. On the surface, I was learning the skills I thought would eventually assist me with a career in my chosen field, but what I was actually doing was something far more important that would hold me in good stead throughout my life and my career. I was learning to be part of a creative community. One of the best things about Omaha, and maybe the best thing, besides the part where, as an Angelino currently looking for a new house, I often look up houses here on Redfin and then want to kill myself, is, at least when I was growing up, that it was large enough to support all kinds of artistic institutions, but it was small enough that those institutions and the professionals that direct and perform and teach in them are accessible to anybody that wants to be involved with them. There's no barrier to entry here, no exorbitant ticket prices or impossible waiting lists for classes. You don't need an agent and a manager to get seen for a role in a local production. You can just show up. And this was invaluable to me as a kid. I used to keep playbills from shows I saw in town, and I would pore over the cast lists and mentally check off each person I had met or worked with or learned from. And it wasn't long before I felt like I knew everyone in town. Working artistic professionals who treated me with seriousness and respect, even though I was a child. And with each little check mark, I was feeling more and more enmeshed in a community and more enmeshed in a world that I desperately wanted to be a part of. And the template of being part of that community was the fact that I was already part of such a strong community here among the Jewish community. A place where I observed from the moment I was sentient that people had a sense of belonging and responsibility to one another that in many cases went back generations. And nowhere was that more clear than here at the JCC, where you'd walk off down that extremely shiny brown hallway covered in bricks with the eyes of centuries staring at you. Going to ballet class in your little bun, and you could walk past your grandpa and his friends playing cards in the lounge, and you might run into a friend of your grandma's who would then give every detail of your interaction back to your grandma to report back to you and your parents. And there's a view, I think, among many people, that community is a place of safety, a place of boundaries, where one doesn't have to stretch one's comfort zone too much, or encounter people or ideas that might make them nervous or feel uncomfortable. And for many, this can feel like a home that you never want to leave. And for others, it can feel stifling. But I would like to posit a different notion of community, which is not just a safe place where everybody knows your name, or a place where everyone has a predefined role to play, or a place that eschews those that don't fit in or are unsatisfied with their lines as written, but as a place of creation. The first thing you hear in a creative environment, whether it's a TV writer's room or an acting class or an art class or anything like that, is that this is a safe space. There's no judgment here. Feel free to fail. Now, this isn't always true, but the idea of it is important, that safety is the freedom that makes creativity possible. Because creativity is essential for communities. To survive, they don't necessarily have to expand or grow or spin out of control, but they have to evolve. and evolution is an inherently creative act. It occurs only through our relations with others. You know, we've all been raised on the idea of the loner artist, the anti-hero who creates his works of genius, and yes, it's always a him, in a vacuum. But the thing about a vacuum is that it quickly runs out of air. I've worked on a bunch of TV shows now, many of which are tonally very different from one another, and people are often surprised at this. You know, Glow versus The Babysitter's Club versus the lighthearted fun of The Handmaid's Tale. And, you know, they're big shifts. And I say, yes, it seems that way, certainly, but the thing is that I really write about one thing. I write about women with projects. And whether that project is a TV wrestling show or the takedown of a misogynist totalitarian government that treats you as a sex slave or, you know, tweens building a babysitting business, they're all really the same thing. They're all about how a culture of caretaking and community and of being responsible to something larger than yourself is the only way you can really achieve anything. I'd like to get back to the Babysitter's Club, and not just because it's coming out on Netflix on October 11th, and I hope that you'll all watch it, because we could really use the numbers. And this season is really, really good. And it's full of Jews. But because when we were starting to work on it, I was asked again and again in interviews and by executives and by people giving notes, even by the actors themselves, is this really realistic? Could girls this age pull something off like this in the present day? And I reminded them that the Babysitter's Club was based on a work of fiction, but when they continued to ask, I would say, you know, and continue to say, like, would anyone trust these girls to watch their kids when they're just kids themselves? I usually answered, you know, with something flippant, because that's sort of the way that I do things, and, you know, that I'll let any of them watch my kid, and that is true, but, you know, to be honest, I'll let pretty much anyone watch my kid. That's just something that happens when mommy is kind of a workaholic. I mean, Teamsters babysit my kid. And he loves them because, you know, they give him ice cream bars, and they let him sit in the truck, and he gets to push all the buttons. But the reason that I knew it was realistic was because I grew up in a community that had taken me seriously when I was just a very intense little girl with very big ideas, who, when I showed up wanting to be an assistant teacher at a preschool or a teacher's assistant in ballet class or to act in a professional play, they were like, sure. Well, at first, I mean, they were like, do you actually have a ride to all of these rehearsals? But mostly they humored me. And because of that, I was left with the sense that I had something valuable to give the world, which is a feeling that has really never left me, even in dark times. And even as I've moved through worlds that are bigger and can be intimidating, I tell myself things that I learned in Omaha, and I also tell myself, as I did recently, something that a very powerful producer friend of mine said once when I was very nervous about something. Honey, the Emmys are just a trade show. If you remember that, you don't have to be scared of anything. Because the great thing is that once you've learned how to seek out community and to find your place within it, you can do it anywhere. No matter how big the world may seem, you can always find a place for yourself. People in my industry often comment to me that I seem to know everyone. And there's a reason for this. I'm old. But it's also because growing up in Omaha, in these overlapping communities, I never really had a sense that there were people who were unknowable or inaccessible. I always just sort of assumed that anyone would talk to me, and it served me tremendously well over the years. People, even very famous, scary people, are just people who are looking to emotionally connect, maybe now more than ever. And if you're a person who can connect, you can find community with anyone. The other day, I went to a baby shower for a friend, which was being held at a very famous director's house. And I realized as I was driving over that this director is the first cousin of my therapist, who is also the therapist of my current boss. And this was a lot. And for a moment I thought, well, this is it. This is the moment that I have to move to Finland and raise my son as a Finn, because there's no escape from any of this. Everything is just Omaha, where everyone knows everything about everyone, and the Jewish press can figure out your address no matter where you move. And I told all this to the first person I saw when I got to the party, who was a friend that I like a lot and have worked with before, but also had to fire kind of recently. And she listened, which frankly was probably awkward for her. And then she said, well, you know, just embrace it. You made it. This is Hollywood. You're in it. And that's true. But I don't think I would be in it if I hadn't been part of the Omaha community first. Because what I know, standing up here on the same stage where it happened, that I would never have sung that song at the end of the Friedel Jewish Academy Hanukkah play if I hadn't been sure that everyone else was singing with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Now I'd like to invite Brian Nog up to do his chore of getting us motivated to support our community. And he'll do it really well because he's a great public speaker. Come on, Brian.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Rachel, that was an amazing speech. I had memories as you were talking about about your time in JCC Productions. I think there's a number of people here that were involved in those productions. Namely, Joni Jacobson was directing all of these productions, and I remember being in a play, I think called The Odd Potato with Rachel, and it was a play that I think I was made to do by my mother, but it was a good memory, and you know, I think about that. You know, you think about the childhood memories when you're sitting in the crowd, and you know, Rachel brought up a lot of those good points, but I just love to hear what she said about creativity. I mean, we have the ability to be creative in this community because we're big enough to make a difference, but we're also small enough where anyone can make a difference. So I think that's important. So again, thanks for coming together tonight. Whether you are in this theater or in front of me or listening on Zoom, thanks for making this event a priority. Thanks to my fellow co-chairs of the event, of course, my wife, Jamie Nog, and Carrie and Brandon Tauber, the campaign co-chairs, Marty and Iris Ricks, and Shane and Jess Cohn, and the Federation staff for putting on a memorable event. Despite just being able to be physically together on a limited basis in the pandemic, we are still able to come together as a community, spiritually, philanthropically, in how we participate when we can, and in how we share and collaborate on a future vision and strategic plan to build and sustain a strong and vibrant Jewish community. We have strived. We have overachieved once again. We came together during the pandemic year and set a record for money raised in a campaign. We contributed $3,502,431 last year, which allowed us to provide $60,000 in COVID relief, $74,000 for Jewish religious schools. We had 1,435 Nebraska students learn about the Holocaust through IHE's annual moral courage and essay competitions, and 275 monthly meal deliveries were made via junior-senior outreach. These are just to name a few of the accomplishments. Year after year, we realize that we are each counted on to contribute what we can in order for our community to continue to be successful. Our annual campaign raises funds to support our local agencies, Israel, and our programming. Most of us struggled in our businesses and livelihoods during the pandemic year, but still found a need and a way to contribute money and our time to the Jewish community. We should be grateful, thankful, and proud of how we came through against these odds and how we now know that we can get through anything in this unique Jewish Omaha. We now have a JCC that is second to none. If you haven't checked out all that is new and improved at the JCC, I'm glad we got to see it tonight before this. Sign up for a tour with one of the Jewish Federation staff members. Look at the Steinberg JCC on the Steinberg-Cooper-Fellman campus. We have the Lng Levine Performing Arts Theater, the Baker Family Leisure Pool, the Benjamin and Anna Wiseman Family Reception Room, the Blumkin Family Institute for Holocaust Education Learning Center. We have some new conference rooms. We have the renovated Phil Sokoloff Fitness Center. We have the Goldstein Family Aquatic Center, the Linda K. and Nelson Gordman Black Box Theater, the Marlene and Marty Steinberg Arts and Education Corridor, the Milton, Mendel, and Marcia Kleinberg Hall of History, the Penny Z. Davis, now called Early Learning Center, the Schlesinger Family Lobby, the Shirley and Leonard Goldstein Community Engagement Venue, and the Simon Family Performing Arts Academy. I don't love doing lists and speeches, but I think the benefactors and what has become here has to be recognized. You can tell that we now have a modern, renovated facility to enjoy and be proud of. The honoring of Uncle Chuck Arnold this year brought back a ton of memories for me at the JCC as a kid through the Saturday night JCC sleepovers, Platte River Sports Camp, and even the 12-day JCC overnight camp. We hope our children will have the same kind of memories we had. Buildings themselves do not create strong Jewish communities, but enriching and exciting programs do. With the hope that COVID will subside soon, we have beautiful community space for programs for all ages. Your generosity will enable the Federation and its agencies to create and host these exciting programs and events. I have many memories at the Penny Z. Davis Early Learning Center. I recall the Friday morning Shabbats, seeing our children singing with my mother, Ms. Patty, and in my early fatherhood days with Maura Carey Fingold. It was a sight to see and an amazing way to start a Friday. As a young father and as a community member, it was worth attending to observe our community's future. The Jewish Press, a weekly dose of pictures, people, and programming with enough current events to keep track of what is going on in Jewish Omaha, our country, and the Jewish world. Whether in Chicago early on or expecting it in the mail or online these days, I have always found it a worthy endeavor as it keeps us unique and relevant to those who care about our community from all over the country. My family from out of town looks forward to seeing what is going on in Omaha, and I was told that Kansas City, Detroit, San Diego, and Tampa are among bigger communities that all don't have a consistent community news source like our Jewish Press. I visited the Rose Blumkin Jewish Home regularly as I grew up, learning that the ultimate mitzvah is visiting the elderly and those that are ill. Residents love to see visitors, especially children, and those extra smiles and laughs are good medicine. I had many relatives who were there, and the care they received was amazing. When I first moved back, the renovations were starting to take place. I made it a point to bring my young children to the town hall on Sunday afternoons to play on the kids' area slides and to visit people we knew there. The Rose Blumkin Home is something to be proud of, and we have to continue to contribute to maintain it. We want our children to have unique Jewish experiences that inspire and bridge the gap from our children's bar mitzvahs and to their Jewish identity going into adulthood. Your contributions make these experiences at Jewish summer camps, Jewish youth group conventions, and Israel trips available to all who want to participate. As I have children in this age group now, I think about how the high school Jewish experiences will influence my children in their excitement about their Judaism. Why do we give to the Federation? We give because of the JCC, where we have a sense of involvement, our kids participate in camp, we swim and work out, and it is a beautiful place of comfort and community. We give because of the ELC, where our children discovered Judaism in early classrooms and sang Hatikvah on the way home. We give because of the Jewish Press, our weekly dose of Jewish Omaha in pictures and text. We give because of the Rose Blumkin Home, to care and enrich the elderly in our community as we have for generations. We give because there have been few times in the history of Jewish community where helping others in need has been more vital. Jewish Family Service continues to be an amazing resource for many of our neighbors who struggle to make ends meet. We give to the Institute of Holocaust Education, as we can continue educating our community to ensure the horrors of genocide never happen again. We give for the scholarships to enable children within our community to attend Jewish summer camps, youth groups, religious school, and secondary education. But we mostly give for you, so Jewish Omaha can continue to grow and thrive for generations to come. We are fortunate to be part of a community that has many amazing nonprofit organizations. There are also many generous donors in Omaha that support these organizations. These entities have much bigger bases than we do. As Jews, we want to support these other organizations in addition to our commitment to JFO, but we have to consider that if we don't prioritize JFO, who will? We were supposed to be outside. I laugh at this. We were supposed to be outside still with drinks, still with the cocktails, so I wrote a toast. So let's pretend you have glasses and we're still enjoying the nice cocktails. Let's raise our glasses for a toast to our hospitable, participative, and overachieving community. Your generosity and participation are appreciated, and you keep us going strong. We are big enough to, as I said before, we are big enough to make a difference with our campaigns as a whole, but we are also small enough where your ideas and initiatives can be presented and considered. You can move the needle in Jewish Omaha. Thanks for all you do. And now, I want to give you the opportunity to pledge at this event, if you're here or if you're online. An anonymous donor, as people have mentioned already, an anonymous donor will match any increase or new pledge up to $60,000 to the annual campaign before October 18th. Please make your gift now to double your impact and help us unlock this generous gift to our community. This will also help the campaign get off to an amazing start. Thanks to our first challenge match of 2020 campaign event with Josh Molina, we saw the largest amount raised at a single event. During last year's JFNA's challenge match, we saw our generous local donors unlock an additional match from national donors. So you were giving out your card earlier. I'd like you to take that out and at least look at it. And there's a QR code, which looks just like that, that amazingly you can take out, just like you're taking a picture, open your camera app and focus it on that symbol, and it will unlock an app called Mobile Cause that will have a drop down, and it will lead you into getting information and your pledge. We'd love for you to do it right now. I know everybody's not going to do it right now, but we highly advise that this is a good time. You've seen a lot of a lot of things to make you excited about what's coming forward, and we just appreciate you being here. Thanks again for attending tonight, and everyone get home safely.
Okay, I'm going to call up my friend David Galinsky back up for us to close out the night. While he's coming up, I just want to give a shout out to Jess Cohen for all the work that she's done to keep the staff sane while she led through some of the pivotal changes we needed to make. So, David, this is another great night.
Put that QR code back up.
Okay, we're going to try something.
That QR code, I'm not going to try anything. You guys need to do this. It works. It's amazing. Did you ever notice these QR codes? They look like a Rorschach test. So look, do you see the elephant in there? If you don't see the elephant in there, it's a dark world. You need to give. You need to make a difference. I just find that's really interesting.
Well, I think you see a lot of space in there. There's space for giving.
There's space, yeah. I mean, it's negative space.
Well,
we want to make it positive.
Thank you.
Yeah. I thought Rachel was amazing. Was she not amazing? I loved listening to her. She's all about community. I got 3 words for Rachel, and that's Season 3 Dad. I'm available. Catherine and I raised 2 wonderful tweens. They were tweens at one time. So it's just something, I'm putting myself out there.
It's good that you offer your services
It's possible, yeah.
You're such a giving guy.
I think tonight was amazing. I would encourage everybody to actually make a commitment tonight. You're going to do it anyway. Just get it out of the way. Why do you want it hanging on your desk, collecting dust? run across it. I'm going to call you. Just do it. Put it in there. We'll make some numbers happen. We'll get all excited, get the momentum going. What else do we need to talk about?
Just that. Make the gift happen and support the community. I do want to say just how wonderful it is to see everybody again. And I just want to thank David, who's been a partner with many of the things that I've wanted to do over the years through the ADL or the Federation. And he's always there to take my call and to help out.
It's my pleasure.
And it's great for me to have this honor with you tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
It's been fun. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. We have staff with baskets that can pick up your pledge card if you have them. Thank you all.